Welcome to Privet Palm Beach Presents, bringing you everything Palm Beach. Coming to you from our active storefront studio in the exciting new Nora District. This week brings us Perfectly Palm Beach with host Janie Chase. Be sure to stay tuned for the weekly Privet update at the end of this episode. We're just getting started, so subscribe, follow, like, and share our multiple channels. You can find Perfectly Palm Beach candles and diffusers at local stores including Lily Pulitzer, Hive, and at perfectlypb.com. The perfect Palm Beach gift.
Hi everybody and welcome to Perfectly Palm Beach. I'm your host Janie Chase, and this morning we are back in the studio with two very interesting people that I have had the pleasure of meeting recently. And I'm going to tell you about them and introduce them in 1 second. I do want to do a little plug here for our June issue of Quest. If you are traveling this summer and you happen to be going to London, this is chock full. Girls, this is chock full. Great stuff, you guys. I know you just got back from London. So go online. The digital issue is online. A digital issue is online. You can also subscribe. We love it. There's a lot of great stuff in here. So, okay. So joining me this morning is Natalie Silver Bell, the CEO of SilverBell Global, which is a concierge service that we're going to talk about in a minute for addictive behaviors. You're going to explain that better than me. And Graham Doerge, who is Director of Strategic Partnerships, right?
Yep.
And I'm so excited to have you guys here because when I met you guys about a month ago in Palm Beach at Renato's, and you had that dinner kind of explaining about what you do, we certainly have heard a lot about a lot of rehab centers in our lives. All of us are touched by this. You guys had a different kind of message. There was a spiritual alignment to everything that you said, and I was so moved by it that I had to get you on here right away. So I'm so happy that we got you the one day you're in town.
Oh, bless you.
Luck would have it, right?
Thanks
So the gods are with us. So tell us, you guys, explain what you are, what SilverBell Global is, and then I want to know about each one of your journeys and how you guys got here.
That'd be great. I'll try to be as concise as possible. But really, it started with my own journey in recovery over 20 years ago. And I didn't end up going to a rehab, as you mentioned. That's a piece of the puzzle for people with, let's say, there are many different kinds of institutions for substance abuse, for eating disorders, for suicide ideation, self-harm, and so on and so forth. That's a piece of the puzzle. And as I was watching my friends leave treatment, they were relapsing or going into old patterns and behaviors. And I thought to myself, there has to be another way to help create sustainable pathways for healing outside of the four walls. Right. Thus began my kind of quest to figure that out.
And Graham, were on the same path as Natasha. That was the same kind of situation for you.
I was. So I, contrary to Natasha, did attend treatment center. So I came down here to Florida in about 2008, attended a program here locally called the Hanley Center. And I was about 26 years old at that point. So I was super fortunate that I was, kind of in that 20s segment of my life where I had some clarity and I had some understanding that like life was going to go one of two ways if I didn't figure this out. Right. And so I came down here and by the grace of God, that was, my one and only treatment center. And through that process, I really discovered that and didn't have a whole lot of direction leading up to that. But through that process, discovered this is something that I want to do with my life. Like this is my mission and helping others and my purpose. And Tasha and I have known each other for going on probably about 12 years. And just recently started kind of partnering on certain things. So it's been a real pleasure to kind of come full circle on that.
I think you guys are, and our viewers will see through this segment really what great partners you guys are and the important work that you do. I'm curious really how you were able to identify that what you're doing now didn't exist in the marketplace and how successul you are in helping people, really succeed in their own lives.
Thank you. I'll try to make this as simple as possible.
Well, I know it's hard to kind of like get it into 4 sentences. We want to know the story.
Yeah, totally.
So I can give you the story about how this began. So it
Yes.
really began, I do believe in God, and I believe that he created this company out of me. And I didn't start with a business plan or investors. It really was just a passion and a purpose going where the openings are. And so I was newly divorced and I had 3 small children on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And I had gotten some certificates in coaching, right? And that's cute and everything, but that really didn't teach me what it is that I'm doing today. But it was a beginning. And I think when you think about life transitions, I'm newly divorced. What do I do next? How am I going to feel value and worth something in this world? Not just earn resources. And so I followed the path of doing what I loved, and I like helping people. And creating a pathway that created income for that was important. And so there was a lawyer that I was put in touch with, Art Ettinger, who I still work with today, and he's a matrimonial attorney. And he said, Natasha, I have your first client for you. And it was a mother of 2 on the Upper East Side. And he said, I need you to just go check on her because she will lose custody of her kids if she doesn't stay sober coming out of treatment.
Right.
And he always makes a funny comment, elephants don't marry giraffes. And I know that to be true in my divorce process, as I got, it is a good one. Isn't that
I
fun?
like that. Right.
Elephants don't marry giraffes. So when one chooses to have a new pathway of behaviors and patterns, whether substance or otherwise, that fractures in relationships, unless they change together or grow together, typically occur. And so she was really trying to put her best foot forward. So I would go, because I had 3 small children and I had like 98% custody, so I really didn't have the luxury of being away unless my children were in school.
Right.
So I would go for a few hours, a couple times a week. And after about 6 weeks, the lawyer says, okay, now the forensic psychologist that was overseeing this case wants to speak to you. And I said, hey, do you think you could have helped a sister out and told me I was being supervised by a forensic PhD psychologist in
That's
Manhattan
scary.
in the court system? You think, and he says, you're doing great. Just go in and tell him what you're doing with the client. So I went in, I sat down. Of course, he had his spectacles on. He was classic Freudian, not looking up, had his note pen. And I'm like on the edge of my seat. He still won't look up at me.
Yeah.
And he just says, please have a seat. Tell me what you're doing with my client. Anxiety, like imposter syndrome happening all over the place. So I start telling him. I said, I'm helping her with her 2 small children, do chores, play board games, do grocery shopping together, learn how to not go down the aisle that might be tempting. Alcohol was what was at hand. And so we learned how to create new pathways in everyday life. Then I would go back home and help her do sticker charts with the kids and really just modeled appropriate behavior as a sober mom, because as somebody who woke up in sobriety, from substance abuse and realized I have 3 beautiful children.
Yeah.
I don't know how to be a sober mom. This is really scary, and to not self-sabotage. And so I really didn't say much to the mother. I just modeled for her and rinsing and repeating. And then after I said that, and then the psychologist, he put his glasses on, he looked up and he says, because it's working. And she had said, he had asked her, you're doing well. She had never been able to create. She'd been to treatment a few times.
But this is you just following your intuition, right? This is like what you needed. Yeah, that's amazing.
This isn't something I learned in class, but I did know from the path I had walked prior to her about how do I want to stay sober and be present for my kids? I don't want someone to tell me what to do. Just be with me. And Peter Levine, he's a famous trauma therapist who says what trauma is not the act that happens to you. It's the lack of an empathetic witness that creates the trauma. So being seen, being heard, being a witness to one's healing journey is very helpful.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, we could just talk about that for an entire day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's incredible. But how did the company start? Like, where did you just started from that one client?
Correct.
And then you just decided to add more clients to.
I did not decide to do anything. It
just came to you.
It actually came to me. And that's where I do say I'm partnering with God in every relationship that's come to the table. And I don't mince my words when I say that. I really mean it, because I would get referrals out of the woodwork. Dr. So-and-so is referring you. Yes, people might have talked that I wasn't aware of, but there were referrals coming in. And so one client at a time, very slowly. I'm in our 13th year now, but it was very slow how this happened.
See, I think that's sort of interesting, because I think when you make these big changes in your life and you go through these transformations, it has a lot to do with the success of it is based on the organic nature of that door that's opening for you. It's not necessarily something that you've gone for, that you've written a business plan for. It just sort of all kind of comes together. And when all those pieces to the puzzle start fitting together, you know you've kind of got something, right? I think the addictive world, I'm not even sure if I'm really saying that the right way. It's not something that I personally have dealt with. I know a lot of people that have dealt with it, but there's when people come out of a rehab situation. I think the shame and the embarrassment is something that might not have been addressed initially to kind of help them, which is why people kind of fall back onto their addictions. You guys seem to have opened up the heart of that matter more than anybody else that I know of. Would you agree?
Thank you for recognizing that. And we just got back from a week-long retreat that our company leads over with Lady and Lord Northampton, about an hour in North Hampshire. And we have Deb Dana there. She's the co-creator of the polyvagal theory with Stephen Porges, and she trains all of our coaches in understanding the science of your nervous system. So really it is a co-regulation that we're doing, because let's say I have a more healed nervous system than a client coming out of treatment would. And our companions are trained in a way to help co-regulate so that they can become self-regulated over time when it's appropriate for them to really be more independent.
Wait, can we talk about that for a second? The nervous system, I don't really know what that means. I mean, I feel nervous every day, so I don't know. I'm not really sure what you guys are really addressing in that way.
On that and start talking about, the complexities of the nervous system and all that. But I think it's even like, for me too, it really comes back to connection, right? And you often hear in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or we're 12-step programming and all that is, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And that's something that
the opposite of addiction is connection.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've lost through our substance use issues. And you quite frankly will see people before they come into treatment normally are very isolated. They're using by themselves. Life has become pretty desperate, right?
Yeah.
And to think that you can have this this absolute, shift over a 30-day period and total psychic shift over 30 days is very unrealistic, right? So I think where, SilverBell really comes into the fold really, really well is like, okay, you've done 30, 60, 90 days in treatment. What happens at month 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, right?
Exactly.
Where like life starts coming at you.
Right.
Things are still hard.
Always
You're still kind of
curveballs.
cleaning up the wreckage to some extent. And having that person there who's creating that connection and has that rapport and that trust and then after you're able to build that rapport and trust, your nervous system is obviously able to kind of stabilize a little bit.
And I'll add a little moment.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Very good. And I'll add a touch to that. And as this was going on, I was the only person in my company for many years, actually.
Oh, really?
And it took some time before we built the infrastructures. Then the forensic psychologist actually started hand feeding me cases, one after the other.
The scary forensic guy
The
with
scary
the glasses.
forensics guy with glasses, because he realized that like having someone who's walked in the client's shoes and overcome the adversity. I give the analogy of hiking Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it with somebody who's studied it. I want to do it with somebody who's lived it and gone up and down and knows the best way to guide me up safely and when to pause and look at the view and look back and see where you've come.
That's a great analogy.
And so you need someone who understands the cadence of when to pause, because sometimes in family systems, they don't quite understand that pausing and reflecting and maintaining versus push, 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 push. So it is more of an ebb and flow in recovery. So there is the cadence to it, and what the guy with the funny
I
glass.
never thought about that before. There's a cadence to recovery.
There is. It's like children. Science shows that they heal or they grow in 90-day intervals, right? So there's a physical growth that happens in the first year of life, and then there's a psychological growth the next 90 days. And they take turns. You can't just grow physically and mentally all at once. And so when you're rewiring your nervous system and you're rewiring behavioral pathways and neuroception is happening, easy does it, because otherwise they can become too overactivated. Their nervous system isn't ready for that next step.
Correct, right.
And you've got your relapse because it was too much.
So let's talk about the real logistics, guys. So somebody is referred to you, then what happens?
We have a great COO and Chief Clinical Director, Dr. Taryn Harmelio. She's a PhD and she's brilliant. And she's on 30 minutes of a courtesy Zoom. We interview each other. It's as much for us as it is for them. We don't take every case. We're not the right fit for everyone. Typically, people come to us who've tried every other pathway. The analogy is the last stop on the bus route. I don't like that as much as maybe the middle stop, right? Let's not wait till the end. But the consumers in America in particular and Europe are getting a lot more informed. They're quite savvy and they understand inpatient treatment is not the only way and they have to look for other ways. And so 30 minutes with her and then we decide if we're going to go to a next step and assign a lead team manager.
And so it's in and out, right? I mean, is there a facility that people go? No, you don't refer people to different facilities. This is...
We do consult at times. We're very trusted. We're very ethical about what we do. And I'd like to say we have a gold standard about how we're seen. When people say SilverBell gets called, it's like, oh, you mean business.
Well, and I also think that it's important too that like so many families are in absolute crisis mode, right? When this happens, you never think that this is going to happen until it does, right? And then when you're in that crisis, everybody is so elevated and activated and doesn't know where to turn, where to look. And quite frankly, people start Googling stuff, right? Which is one of the worst things that you can do because every place looks great online. You have no idea who the clinical team is. So where we can also be, a big source of resources is like, going through and understanding what are the right programs going to be if treatment is needed. And that's not always the case, but, knowing who the team is, who the ownership is, knowing, who's going to be doing all of the clinical work, right, with a particular client, because certain clinicians on a team might have certain specialties that are going to, vibe very well with a certain client that's dealing with something, right? So we can help kind of guide that and navigate that process and save a lot of time, right?
We do. We don't just put every doctor with each client. There are different, depending geographically where they are or where their licensure is. But we put multidisciplinary teams together with the live-in therapeutic coach and companion, depending on what's clinically live-in. That's the majority of our work. We will do some virtual
So you move
work.
into the person's house. You have a specialist that moves into their environment.
We do.
See, I think that is what makes you guys so different, right?
But it's done with clinical supervision. Our clinical leads are very important to us, and there's daily note-taking. It's like rounds. There are notes that are taken. There's an infrastructure. We will not allow a client to say, oh, you can't talk to this doctor or that doctor. We will pause and say, we're probably not the right fit for you.
How many patients basically do you have at a time?
We're around a census of around 50 every month.
Okay. And they're usually in the Northeast. Are they all over the world? Like where are you seeing like your people coming from?
They are all over the world.
Yeah. And what is there a common thread that you're seeing? Is it boys 18 to 25? Is it women from 60 to 80? Like where are you kind of seeing the...
We have 3 different verticals in the company to help organize it. So we have a primary eating disorder track, we have a primary mental health track, and a primary substance abuse. And I'm going to have to unfortunately say, not always our eating disorders are usually young girls.
Yeah.
And women.
Well, right.
And mental health is a wide range of spectrum. And of course, substance abuse is actually getting less and less, because people are coming in and they're maybe misusing substances, but it's not their primary, and it might qualify more in a mental health space.
And is it usually younger? I mean, I know you said for the anorexia and bulimia, it's young girls, but is across the board, is it more male? Is it where young people or?
It's honestly a third from ages, let's say. Really? We have cases as kids as young as 9 or 10. Up to, 75. A third. If you want to break it down in gender and age, it's the same.
I think too, you've got to think about it. That's usually surprising that like older adults are really a huge, part of this population, right? But if you think about it, at least a lot of the clients that we work with, it's high net worth individuals or people who have maybe sold a company. They maybe had some sort of underlying issue, concern all throughout their life, but they had this job, this career, this routine that kind of kept them on track. and then they sell a company, they retire, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they have nothing.
They
but
were
time,
super
right?
functional, and then all of a sudden,
100%.
yeah.
Right. And then
Wow.
and then you lose that. And I think one of the things that SilverBell does so well is like finding that purpose and passion, right? That is the key
Helping
to
that
all of
person
this,
find.
right? What is this next chapter going to be for your life, right? And are you going to dive into philanthropic work? Are you going to dive into maybe a new business that's,
You have
more of
career
a
coaches
hobby,
on
right?
staff?
So interesting
Or
enough,
access to people that have different
we do.
careers?
In LA, they
That's so
call us
cool.
Yeah.
they call us producers. We are reproducing people's lives because putting the substance down is like elementary. That's 101.
Right.
Yes, or the patterns and behaviors that are getting in the way of sustainable lifestyle that they want to have. And so I think people live in a lot of fear that, oh no, if I think big or dream big, then it won't happen. Self-sabotaging comes in. I'm guilty of that. So
Everybody is.
I mean,
Everybody is.
yeah.
Right.
And so we help people rebuild their passions and we go for it with them. So the therapeutic alliance that's made with the live-in companion that's there with the clinical oversight is really strategic because we help encourage them. Look, we have Navy SEALs that live with some of our kids. These guys are out hiking. They're doing some
those guys have no fear. They're out there swimming with the sharks
literally
at 2 a.m. No,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, they're
And they
incredible.
all, have their own trauma that they've dealt with. Maybe they don't have a substance concern, but they've faced death in the face.
No kidding.
So I mean, they have a very different perspective on life, I think. So it's like, and obviously they are individuals who have, incredible skill sets and things like that. So it's like, it's particularly the Navy SEAL guys are usually with a younger adult gentleman who, we need to instill some life skills and some real core values into these young men of, these are some of the very few things that you need to do to have a productive life.
Well, and I will say, to answer your question, I wasn't trying to dance around it. We do have a significant milieu of, let's say, 18 to 25-year-olds. And always have. And they're young men, and they come from a walk of life that, say, is a bit of privilege. And so, being labeled is really challenging. I typically stay away from diagnosing and treating. That's for the doctors to do. But also, we don't even bring those diagnoses into the treatment work. It's actually not important. Finding their passion and purpose is. That's more of the diagnosis I'm looking for. Yeah. So these Navy SEALs, when we stumbled upon them over 10 years ago, we created a program called Due North Quest, The Journey Makes the Man. And now it just kind of filters into SilverBell. And they do like midnight water swims. They're out, just really one-on-one, not in a group. This is really strategic. There's a lot. And so when you think about some kid who's had like every luxury in the world, who's he going to respect in this world? Maybe the knights that are still here today, which are the Navy SEALs. And it's an incredible fire to start. They're like, yeah, I want to do a program where I'm running around with Navy SEAls.
What was the name of that camp that was around when I went to camp? Where it was in Maine. They had a couple different locations where you hiked for a week, and then your last day you're like on your own, and they dump you in the middle of some island.
Yes,
like you're by yourself. They give you a box of raisins. I sort of always wanted to do that. Until you're by yourself in a sleeping bag outside the last night. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. Oh, yeah.
And I think, I've worked with a lot of young adults. I was part of, launching a young adult program down here in Florida years ago. And then I opened up my own program up in North Carolina a few years back. And especially with the young adult men specifically, because that's who I really worked with most. But you have to make that connection for them that life is not over. Look at all the amazing things that you can do now, right? And I was fortunate that when I was going through treatment, and I truly feel like it was the hand of God on me that just said, gave me clarity, gave me insight that just start channeling all this energy in this time. And I started fly fishing and golfing and doing all these, really healthy things because I had to crush that identity of who I was, right? And because I was the party guy, the fun guy, and that's just who I was for all those years. And now I needed to, relearn
and
who
people
Graham
will keep you
is,
there. Other people will keep you there, right?
100%,
right. Yeah.
Right? And it's, it's the people you hang
Which is
out
powerful.
with, it's the places that you go, it's the things that you're kind of doing. And I think that it's even, the two of us, we talk about all the time. I think it's like the things that you're watching, the things you're listening to, everything that you're bringing into your orbit is so important.
Yeah, I love that. I want to read a quote, you guys, that I was looking at some of your information this morning, and Patrick Kennedy, who was a senator or representative from Rhode Island, right? So he obviously, there's a lot of addiction in that family. And he was saying no one is immune from addiction. It afflicts people, of ages, races, classes, and professions. And I watched a video that he had done on CBS Morning, and my first job at a college was working for Ted Kennedy because he ran for president now, and everybody knows how old I am. And which was an amazing experience, but there was a lot of addictive behavior around. And I thought it was, he's so brave in how he talks about it. Obviously, he's been through recovery, and he talks about his mother who was an alcoholic and how that was her identity then. And it was, and how unfair that was. And I think the unfairness that goes along with the illness is something I'd love you guys to sort of talk about, because, as he says, it doesn't matter who you are. When it comes to you, it comes to you. When you have to deal with it, you've got to deal with it, right?
I will say to that point, I'm an ex-model. I was with Ford Models for a while.
Oh, you were? Oh, I didn't know.
Yep, I sure was. And I modeled with my dear friend, Margaret
makes
Luce,
sense.
who's a dear friend of mine.
Okay.
And
so we could start that show, Life After the Runway.
Yeah.
Life After the Runway, there it is.
I like that.
Just got to get Andy
Yep,
on the
I've got a
line.
lot of guests
Yeah.
for you already. And one of the things that my friends would say, that the birds of a feather that I was associating, my party friends were like, oh, you're fine. You're just a party girl.
Right.
You're fine. And I was like, yeah, I'm just a party girl. Like, what's the big deal? But then I found in my own quiet moments in my mind with myself that I knew I really had a problem. I didn't know what that problem was. I just knew I couldn't stop drinking and using drugs. And so I didn't really know. But when I finally surrendered and began a program of recovery, 20 years later, about 2 years ago, I did a genetic testing to see if I didn't actually look for the indicator for substance abuse or have addictive personality, but sure enough, it came up. And yes, I do have it. My uncle passed away from it, but my parents didn't drink alcohol. We grew up in a sober home, not because they had a problem. It was for more religious reasons. But nonetheless, here I was at like 20 years old, like bottoming out in New York City year after year after year, and couldn't get a grip.
So interesting.
It is a genetic predisposition in many people, and it can become a habit that becomes into a problem. So there's situational drinking.
Yeah.
If you're in a toxic environment, whether it's work, I have a lot of people transition away from a toxic work environment and then realize when they're exhaling and finally breathing into a purpose and passion, they're not wanting to drink as much. And there's a difference there.
And it's a coping mechanism, right? I mean, and is there some sort of, that's one of the things that we really do a deep dive on is assessing every situation and every scenario. And is there some sort of like underlying mental health component that, obviously this is just a coping mechanism for you to deal with that, whether it's anxiety, depression, traumatic brain injury, any kind of litany of things that are all kind of leading to this. And, you're just hurting. Right at the end of the day, and this is you're yearning for something, right? And in my opinion too, I think that like there's a huge spiritual component to this as well, right? And you're yearning for a connection with God, higher power, whatever that may be,
Right.
And I think through my growth and in recovery and all of that, like what I've discovered is that we're all looking for that peace, right? And we get that when we start using substances or whatever, if it's eating disorders and we're binging and purging or whatever it may be, like you get that relief for a momentary time until it comes cascading back in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all of those different pieces, and really all we're ultimately looking for is some sort of peace.
It's so true, guys. Well, you've brought so much peace here this morning. I could talk to you guys forever because I know we just barely scratched the surface for what you all do. I do want to make sure the message gets through that you guys really are different from other programs.
I might add a little something then.
Add something,
Yeah,
and then I also want to circle back and I want to make sure our viewers know how to reach you and how to connect with you, because I think I hope we help people reach out to you. I do.
One of the pieces you were commenting on is that there is about a 2 to 3 week assessment period. Let's say after they call Taryn, they do the 30-minute consult, they want to do a next. We do about 3 free 30-minute consults because it's a matching game of a lead case manager a lead therapeutic companion, and then we send paperwork. There's a lot of discernment that goes into if we really are the right fit. Is everyone really on board? We explain our process very thoroughly. And then we send the paperwork and we bill 1 day at a time. Most cases, there are different case structures at times. Yeah. It's a 2 to 3 week assessment period where we put the multidisciplinary team together, look at a histrionic, look at what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked, what are the goals and the motives to move into the first phase. Typical cases last 9 months to a year. And so this isn't just a 3-month fix.
Right.
It can be. It can be. And then we decide after that 2 to 3 week assessment period, how does the family feel? Because we're asking all family members, whether it's a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, children, or parents, to be involved at a pace that is appropriate for where they are in their lifestyle.
Incredible. That is
Not
big,
every
right? I mean,
family
it's
is
not
ready,
for every family.
right?
It's ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's okay.
I mean, this is such a big issue. And there's, as you said, over the 3 different categories, basically, that you guys are seeing across the world. There's just so many subsets, I'm sure, and all of that. It's a tough thing that you guys are doing, but I do love the fact that you're doing something that is really helping a lot of people, and you're taking your own personal experiences and touching people's lives and helping them move forward and helping the world to heal in little small ways. That's big.
Well, thank you so much for creating space to talk about this. It can feel uncomfortable when people might hear this because they always know someone, even if it's not personally in their own family, or it could be a friend's family. I will say this, as a mom with a 22, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old, I got it wrong. There is no right.
In what way?
In so many ways. My children will tell you often.
You're supposed to get it wrong. Yes. That's how they grow.
Right. Yeah,
and through that adversity. So the reason I set that up that way is because the parents that are listening going, I'm afraid to call. I'm afraid to reach out because I'm going to be told that I got it wrong. Yes. And if you're listening and you're having that thought, it's okay because you're not the problem. You're part of the solution. And that's the best way to look at it.
It is a scary thing. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, whoa, if I was in those shoes, it's so scary. Yeah. It's so scary because, you don't want to lose your kid.
You don't. For so
that
many
relationship,
reasons.
I mean, it's an arc, I'm sure. That's how you guys see it.
And it's not going to be, it's certainly not a straight line. And there's going to be bumps along the road. But it's an opportunity for a tremendous growth within the family system, if everybody is on board and doing their work, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not just about the identified patient.
Yeah,
that's right. It's the total package. Everybody has a piece in this.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are really special. I'm so happy that you came into my life, and I'm so happy that you guys had the time to come in today. Tell all of our viewers and listeners how they can find you.
So if you go to SilverBellGlobal.com, it's really that simple, inquiry, and put an inquiry in and set up a free 30-minute consultation with our chief clinical director. That's how serious. We don't have an admin person. She is it. So she's assessing from the beginning, and you're getting a real hands-on approach from someone highly trained.
And also, if it's something that you guys can take care of,
we're going to recommend.
You're going to recommend. So you're just an amazing resource for anybody in that difficult situation. I
mean, I do so many phone calls on a daily basis that do not end up with SilverBell, but you follow it through and you get the people the help that they need. And a lot of times it's just not the right fit, but we know really all the appropriate resources nationally, internationally. So however we can help in that regard. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming into Perfectly Palm Beach. We appreciate it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We've touched on something a little bit more serious this morning, but it's an important thing to talk about. So, and not hide from it, right? There's no shame and fear. So anyways, okay, guys, we'll be back in the studio soon. Thanks for joining us.
Here are Privet Picks of the Week. Recommendations for Palm Beachers by Palm Beachers. Did you know there's a new restaurant in town? The new Cafe Drift is family owned and located in the previous Pastry Heaven spot next to the Palm Beach Historical Inn. Offering coffee, pastries, sandwiches, salads, smoothies, and more, you have to check it out. Privet tip, you must get the chocolate chip cookie. What's a better activity for the whole family than something that's both fun and educational? Science and Sunshine with Cox Science Center happens every second Friday of the month from 2 to 4 p.m. at City Place. Enjoy interactive themed demonstrations that will leave everyone leaving with some type of new knowledge. A healthy lifestyle just became more affordable at Amici Market. Enjoy Happy Juice Hour. Every weekday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., enjoy half-off juices, shots, and smoothies. The perfect way to start your day. Privet Palm Beach Presents is a production of Privet Studios and is available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify platforms. You could reach out to us on Instagram at Privet Palm Beach and at theprivet.com. Thanks to the Privet Studios team, including Summers Laffey, Will Cannon, our friends at Mass Inbound, and music by Kevin MacLeod.